Genres are what we use to define the core of a video game. They generally tell the players what story, mechanics, and aesthetics will be used along with how they are used. It is a vital point of creating and selling a game. Many people can explain what genre a game is from, however it is harder to pinpoint what that genre achieves. Today, I'll be analysing every one of them and explaining what makes them unique and how they cater towards a specific audience. Let's start by looking at one of the most diverse and popular genres out there. Action games are unique in the sense that the player will need fast reaction times, planned out thinking, and good hand-eye coordination in order to succeed. The target audience for them are usually experienced players from about 15 plus, who desire a challenging task instead of an easy one. They tend to not focus on a deep storyline for most cases, as the focus is on the gameplay aspect. However, this concept can be applied to many different forms of action game, which are simplified down into mini-genres called subgenres. For action games, some examples are platformers, fighting games, shooters, beat-em-ups, or even rhythm games. Platformers use various movement mechanics which you have to perform with precision in order to land safely and progress onwards. Fighting games train you to output a string of commands at certain times which chain multiple attacks to maximize the amount of damage done to the enemy. Shooters require precise and steady aim combined with situational awareness to prevent you getting shot at. Beat-em-ups revolve around finding the quickest ways to take out the most enemies, and rhythm games need you to have a good concept of, well, rhythm. All these subgenres have different aesthetics like the photorealism of shooters or the exaggeration of fighting. However, the action genre altogether focuses on one aspect of their games to attract their audience: diversity. By giving the players multiple ways to carry out their objective, they create an emergent element to the game. To name some, you can choose the characters you want to be good at in games like Smash or Street Fighter, customize your favourite gun in Call of Duty or Destiny, find the most efficient way of dealing with enemies in games like God of War or the Dynasty Warriors series, or in a game like Osu, you can modify the look and sounds of the entire game. Well, for better or for worse. Adventure is a genre which revolves around a world which is vast, detailed, and enticing to the audience. Just about anyone should be able to pick up an adventure game and suddenly be immersed in a different universe. That being said, adventure developers tend to hone their target audience towards older players in their 20s or 30s, who want to escape and experience something refreshing and new. These games also tend to focus on exploration for obvious reasons. Most use an inventory, collectibles, and a quest system to widen the amount of content within. There are fewer subgenres here than in action, as the genre is more advanced and unique. However, most adventure games are combinations of two genres called hybrids, which we'll talk about later. Some good examples of adventure titles are Skyrim, Breath of the Wild, and Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Common tropes of the genre appear in all of these games. For example, each game listed allows you to learn more about the world if you search hard enough. You can read books in Skyrim, find your past memories around the land of Hyrule in Breath of the Wild, or learn more about the normal civilians through the audio tapes on the City of Glass's roofs in Mirror's Edge Catalyst. They also all provide side missions which take you away from the main story to help the people in their respective games. It can be used as a pastime, learn more about the game, or allows you to follow your own tale. A good adventure game like these will give you the choice of a completely emergent story, allowing you to explore as far as the game's boundaries, searching for your own ending that satisfies you. A completely self-made adventure. There's a fine line between a good and bad sports game, with many excellent and revolutionary developments, and others which are created for the sole purpose of making a profit. Before I list some examples, let me explain. There are two types of sport game, realistic and fantasy. Realistic sports games focus their audience on the hardcore sports fans by creating an experience which completely mirrors an actual sport, whereas fantasy sports games take that extra step forward and creates an experience that shows what a sport could have been and is targeted towards younger, less dedicated fans. I'm about to make a lot of people very angry. EA make good sports games. Or at least they used to. The FIFA games nowadays are becoming less and less innovative with each clone. They add minuscule parts each year, such as new players or teams. But what I'm actually talking about is EA Playground for the Wii. Unlike the wallet-draining titles of today, EA Playground puts you in the role of a kid on a playground, tasked with beating other kids in certain sports minigames to win stickers and marbles. Or there's Sega Rally for the Xbox 360, not made by EA. It's another realistic racing game like Forza or Dirt. However, you can choose between two different racing modes. There's a road mode for a normal racing experience, or you can choose off-road, where a slight turn turns into a complete sideways drift.
Deja vu, I've just been in this place before. Higher on the street, and I know it's my time to go.
If you want a fantasy sports game, a perfect example is Wii Ski and Snowboard, probably the best sport game I have ever played. You can choose to play on a wacky ski resort or colossal mountain, complete mini-games such as your regular race to a food delivery spanning multiple gondolas and pathways, find hidden areas and complete achievements like grinding where you shouldn't, or finding random girls and ninjas, all whilst listening to the amazing diegetic soundtrack featuring songs from Katamari Damacy, Ridge Racer and even Tekken. I didn't even mention Wii Sports Resort and its insane and detailed scale of different activities, but it goes to show that for fantasy sports games, innovation and imagination are the most important factors when developing. RPGs, better known as role-playing games, achieve a similar type of experience as adventure does. This genre instead focuses on your role that you play in the world, and tells a grand tale whilst making you feel as close as possible to the character's position. However, this leads to the same problem that action has, because technically every game has you assuming some kind of role, although it doesn't matter as much due to there being more defining features for a more defined player base. That player base being largely teenagers, more specifically, geeks, those who are interested and dedicated in an imaginary world. For good examples of RPGs that can be appreciated by all, look at Undertale or the Mario & Luigi series. Unlike their defining platformer titles, the Mario & Luigi series is your typical RPG made for younger audiences with the protagonist of the two plumbers. It uses the generic role-playing game formula, such as a turn-based attack system where you take turns attacking, a leveling system which rewards you the more you fight, an item system allowing for healing mid-fight, and a story that is long and interesting in all the games. The graphical theme of these games is retro, using pixelated sprites rather than 3D models. This is done in most games because it was how they were first made and fit the tone of a classical RPG. Better still, look at Undertale, a game which uses the same formula, however brings into question the morality of the actions you take when trying to level up by using different endings depending on how many creatures you kill for rewards. The pacifist route sees you not hurting a fly as you learn more about the world and characters whilst feeling like a true hero, whereas the genocide route sees you destroying everything that moves and tries to make you feel as inhumane and hollow as the character you've been controlling, through the soundtrack to the two bosses which make you feel the pain of the characters. Overall, when it comes to role-playing games, the most effective method to creating a hit is to make the role immersive and make your choices matter. This genre excels at creating an experience of a process in the real world. There are some simulation games which are well known as some of the best video games out there. However, there are also many that are only popular among a minuscule select few who enjoy them. Those games are mostly realistic simulators, kind of like how there are realistic sports series, keeping the tasks as normal as possible. Some examples are Farming Simulator, Car Mechanic Simulator, or Euro Truck Driver Simulator. Stop using the word simulator! Usually they are made for older adults who want to see how hard a certain job is, even if the game may not be a good representation of what it actually is. Some good examples of more well-known titles are The Sims, Spore, Terraria, and of course, Minecraft. Okay, I got 2 diamonds already. I'm making a diamond sword and you can't stop me. The reason these games stick out from the others is how extensive the games are. All 4 of these games simulate survival in some form, whether it be the race of evolution or working up the social hierarchy. They also delve into fantasy, allowing for further expansion on an otherwise normal process. Also, the way you progress in all of them gives you emergent options. For example, in The Sims you are given the choice to marry, combining the assets of the 2 households that you own. However, you can then choose to kill your wife and marry another whilst retaining all the assets. Though not really ethical, the game rewards you for thinking outside the box and becoming a serial killer. Simulation games will probably stick around for the foreseeable future and will continue to be great if companies create those extensive titles. Puzzle games are probably the least commonly made genre among companies today. It is most commonly found on mobile devices without much depth to them to interest the casual phone user. However, there are still some great examples of true puzzle titles that have stuck around despite the lacking genre. They are usually made for intelligent teenagers up to adults who want to challenge their brains with a complex and unique task. Some good examples for puzzle games are Fez and Portal. In Fez, you play on a 3D landscape with a 2D perspective, giving you the ability to rotate the world 90 degrees with a press of a button. This mechanic is used in many ways to create new and innovative challenges as the game progresses. In the Portal games, the main mechanic is teleporting around with portals. However, the game combines this with other concepts such as momentum, moving objects, and enemy turrets to create one of the best set of puzzles there is. They also incorporate a narrative, usually progressing after a certain number of puzzles to give the player a sense of progression and a reward for continuing. If you want an abstract puzzle game, look no further than Tetris, the second best selling video game of all time. The concept is you are given some blocks of different shapes, you can rotate them, and you must place them down to form as many lines as possible. Don't let this fool you though, because as more versions were released, more and more mechanics were added as the community was finding hidden techniques that soon became staples in the series. The sheer size of the game is unheard of, and it all stimulated from a basic form a shape concept that became the greatest puzzle to ever exist. Out of all the genres explained, strategy is the one that's easiest to define due to the very common appearance they share. The main base for a strategy game is a world where you control a group of small, weak goons, tasked with creating a powerful army whilst engaging in realistic combat. Some you probably know are Civilization, StarCraft, Warcraft or XCOM. These are targeted towards a combination of puzzle and action game fans, people who want to be more efficient and smarter than the opponent. There's also a good chunk of emergent gameplay in these games. For instance, the strategies that players have created. Now come on, everyone has typed in Zerg Rush into Google before. The Zerg Rush was founded in StarCraft. In StarCraft, you can choose from a select few races as infantry when fighting another player. The main benefit from Zergs is that they're incredibly fast and efficient in large hordes. To commit a Zerg Rush, you simply train a horde as fast as you can and then destroy the enemy while they are trying to gather resources, build defenses and etc. at the start of a game. The lethality of it drove its popularity and use so high there are now Easter eggs and references to the Zerg Rush, just like Google. Overall, strategy won't die out soon. There are still a myriad of fans and will continue to be. So long as newer, more advanced strategy games keep coming out, strategy will stay as one of the most popular genres out there. The final genre is hybrid, if you can even call it a genre. A hybrid is the combination of two different genres to create a different experience and entice a combination of the audiences of the two elements. Ones you probably know are action-adventure, action RPG, or strategy sports. But what makes a good hybrid game? Well, let's take a look at some footage from a game called Zubo. So here it is. There's your enemies and your allies. It looks like your typical turn-based RPG, right? Now let's pause here. What other type of game is it? I'll give you some time. You got it? Good. Wrong. It's a rhythm game where you time tap to deal the highest amount of damage. The way that the game effortlessly weaves its themes together creates an action RPG that is rarely seen elsewhere, and makes for a great change to a normal RPG. Most games nowadays are some form of hybrid due to the potential of new genres and market space available. In fact, most games I've listed have been a hybrid, however show the potential of that specific type of game. In my opinion, I don't necessarily think that hybrid should be classed as a genre, because it does not specify a certain playstyle and has no distinct audience. However, I do believe that hybrids are going to be more profitable and popular than singular themes, again, due to market space and unique potential. Genres have always been used in media. Gaming is no exception. They define the core of the product and set expectations for those playing. Though it may have some flaws, the current system now says just enough to the consumer to adequately prepare them for what they'll be playing. Nobody knows where video games will go in the coming years, but it won't be declining, that's for sure. It all depends on how the worldwide player base reacts and the influence of each and every company that will ultimately decide the popularity that the genres either rise or fall to.